My dad is a domineering CEO. My mom is the tragic heroine of a melodrama. My brother? A yandere villain. And my sister? The textbook definition of a wicked supporting character. In this family, I'm the only one who's just ordinary. Oh, and our family group chat? It's called Happy Joyful Family. Hi. Is there a way I can apply for a reincarnation? Welcome to History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. My dad's first love came back to town. He rushed to the airport to pick her up, and as soon as he left, my mom started packing her suitcase. I sprinted over, practically breaking a record, and dragged my dad back from the doorway. Dad, who are you picking up at the airport? My dad adjusted his signature gold-rimmed CEO glasses, his sharp features exuding that typical aura of silent melancholy. My mom gave a calm, mocking laugh, pulling out the divorce papers and signing her name without hesitation. Without skipping a beat, I slapped my dad twice, one on each cheek. Dad, people have mouths for a reason. Who are you picking up at the airport? Stumbling back from my blows, he finally managed to speak. I'm picking up Mr. Brown, the CEO of Elite Group. Our companies are collaborating in secret. Sweetheart, you can't tell anyone, okay? My mom's hand froze mid-signature. By then, I had already appeared behind her like a ghost. Mom, where are you going with that suitcase? She shrunk her neck a little, forcing a smile. I'm just going grocery shopping. Baby, Mommy is going to buy all your favorite foods. I raised an eyebrow. With a suitcase? She stuttered for a bit, then gave up entirely. Fine. Whatever. But you slapped your dad, so you can't slap me too. She dragged her suitcase and fled, while the sound of the shredder chewing through the divorce papers echoed from the study. Just as I finally breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the drama was over and we were still one big happy family, my brother, Brandon Blackwell, pulled up in his car. His gaze was dark and brooding as he ignored my frantic waving from the balcony. He opened the trunk and dragged out a man covered in blood. I couldn't hold back anymore and let out a scream that echoed through the entire estate. Brother! What the hell? I'm calling the cops. When I first found out my dad was a domineering CEO, my mom was a tragic melodrama heroine, my brother Brandon Blackwell crawled through the shadows for his first love, and my sister Lily Blackwell, radiant and poised, would suddenly tear down any girl who got in her way, I nearly fainted. But I still mustered the courage to face the cruel reality of my life. That night, I climbed to the rooftop of our grand mansion, wondering if jumping from the third floor would actually kill me. Just then my phone screen lit up. It was Lily in the family group chat, Happy Joyful Family, asking, Baby, Mom made potage de riz au lait. You barely ate dinner. Want to come down for some late-night supper? My brother chimed in right after. You're still young. You don't need to diet. Health is more important. In my eyes, you're always the prettiest. Lily immediately exploded. What about me? I stared at the group chat name for a long moment before slowly climbing back down the rooftop, heading straight to the kitchen for that midnight snack. If I accidentally jump into some tragic drama, I might as well live it out properly. The warm, creamy potage de riz au lait soothed my throat all the way down. We were the happy, joyful family. From that moment, I decided I'd do my best for this family. By the way, that night, my dad had a business dinner outside. The potage de riz au lait was originally made for him. When he came back, reeking of alcohol, there was half a lipstick stain on his cheek. My mom stared at him for a while, then turned to pack her suitcase again. I asked him, Dad, where did that lipstick stain come from? He scoffed, his expression cold and impatient. Kids shouldn't meddle in adult business. My mom had spent 3 hours cooking that rice pudding, and he barely touched it. Just dipped his lips and sneered. What is this? There's not even a hint of sweetness. I slammed my hand on the table. My mom rolled out her suitcase, clearly ready to throw the divorce papers at him again. I climbed onto my dad's shoulders, dug my thumbs into his nostrils, and flashed my mom a grin. Where did the lipstick stain come from? Speak. Ouch, ouch. It was a foreign client. She came up and kissed me out of nowhere. I couldn't dodge it. And why wasn't the potage de riz au lait sweet? Because I have high blood sugar. Your mother is worried about my health. Will you start talking properly from now on? I will. I'm sorry, honey. Thank you, honey. You work so hard, honey. Satisfied, I clapped the dust off my hands, hopped off his shoulders, and marched to the bathroom like a victorious general, humming a little tune. I even dragged my mom's suitcase back to her room along the way. Honestly, would this family even function without me? It's just barely holding together. From what I've observed, my parents may seem like the main characters of a dramatic plot, but my brother and sister are definitely not to be outdone. On the way home from school, I walked alongside my deskmate, Andy Parker. We saw my sister Lily, leading a small group of girls to corner the scholarship student in a narrow alley. We had already passed the alley, but I pulled Andy back with me, sighing like an old soul. Sorry you have to see this. Andy blinked, confused. It's fine? Daisy, do you want me to call for help? I rolled up my sleeves and stretched my arms. No need. See, I had a bit of a reputation for slamming tables, launching into sprints, and breaking into full-on chases. Sometimes, I'd even wrestle suitcases away from my mom for some impromptu weight training. One day in the shower, I looked down and realized, whoa, abs. With the power of those newfound abs, I successfully charged through Lily's circle of henchmen, planting myself firmly in front of the scholarship student. Lily bared her teeth like a wildcat. Daisy, get out of the way. This has nothing to do with you. I'm teaching her a lesson today. To appear more intimidating, she had even borrowed one of Mom's lipsticks, a deep shade of blood red called Husband Killer. With her teeth bared, she looked both menacing and kind of ridiculous. I held my ground with unshakable faith and sighed. Lily, at least make sure your face is on point. The scholarship student couldn't hold back her laughter. The second she laughed, the whole atmosphere turned weirdly awkward. When Lily spoke again, her momentum had already dwindled by half. David is mine. You can't date him. If you touch David again, I'll cut off your filthy paws. Ah. David Miller. I knew that guy. Slightly shorter than Andy Parker, 20 times less attractive, and about 80,000 times worse in grades. Andy Parker was the son of our housekeeper, Aunt Parker. My sister, who had always carried herself with the flair of a wicked supporting character, never even looked Andy's way. Something didn't add up. I hesitated, then asked, Lily, you don't even like Andy. Why would you like David Miller? The scholarship girl's eyes sharpened. Lily, do you really love David Miller? She asked pointedly. Or do you just not want me to love him? Lily finally broke. She blurted out a secret she'd been hiding all along. If you like him, then all my money would have been wasted. Our school was a private high school. Its only real flaw was its ridiculously high tuition. The scholarship student was only able to attend because someone had anonymously sponsored her. Lily grabbed me and dragged me off to the side, whispering frantically. I nodded loudly every few sentences. Aha, so it was you using your own allowance to secretly sponsor her. Lily glared. Keep your voice down. You think it would be a shame if she finally got the chance to study, only to be led astray by that purple-haired guy? Lily's glare sharpened. Keep it down. And that purple-haired guy is so fickle. If you so much as wink at him, he's off with someone else. You're scared she'll get heartbroken. Finally, Lily couldn't take it anymore and shouted, Daisy, would you shut up already? Yes, I don't want her dating anyone. If she does, it should at least be the top student in our year. What's wrong with that? From behind me, the scholarship girl's voice floated over, soft and clear. Lily, I am the top student in our year. Lily's mouth fell open, and the girl struck while the iron was hot. And you're second. She stepped around me and walked up to Lily, patting her on the shoulder earnestly. There are no boys in the top 5. Lily's HP bar hit 0. But the scholarship girl didn't let her off that easily. Instead, she locked eyes with Lily and delivered the legendary protagonist's direct hit. "Thank you, Lily. I wouldn't have been able to enroll without you." "I don't like purple hair. I mean, David. I was only pretending because I didn't want him to drag your grades down. Let's work together and aim for elite university, okay?" Lily, now in a daze, was escorted away by the scholarship girl, who immediately dragged her to a bookstore to buy exam prep materials. I had already retreated back to Andy Parker's side, sighing with awe. Wow, that was terrifying. Andy nodded thoughtfully. We walked a few more blocks in silence before he suddenly spoke up, voice barely a whisper. "Daisy, I'm not purple hair." I glanced at his perfectly black hair. "I know. I'm not blind." Andy hesitated. "Never mind." The heroine's charm was terrifying. Once my sister started imitating her, she went all in, completely head over heels. In just 1 week, they had become best friends. Even when she came home for dinner, my sister kept murmuring to herself, "She's amazing. Truly amazing. I want to set up a scholarship fund for her. When she gets into elite university, I'm giving her 10 million. She booked one of our family's luxury restaurants to celebrate the heroine's effortless top score on the citywide exam. I dragged Andy Parker along to snag a free meal, but the moment I saw my brother Brandon Blackwell's car parked outside, cold sweat ran down my back. A CEO-owned luxury restaurant was practically a high-risk zone for plot twists. This was the place where the male lead and female supporting characters would have dramatic encounters, where the heroine and the male supporting lead would date, and where the male lead would inevitably cry his heart out after failing to win her back. Brandon Blackwell wouldn't be here to bust the male and female leads, would he? I hurriedly shook off Andy Parker and dashed through the private rooms one by one. As expected, I found my brother, along with the male and female leads. The male lead was beaten black and blue, tied up on the floor by my brother's men. The heroine slapped Brandon across the face. He didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed, gripping her wrist as he tried to drag her away. My pupils shrank. No, he can't. He can't take her to our basement. I'd already turned it into a gaming room and gym. Brother, weren't you happy playing Breath of the Wild in there? Don't turn it into a literal princess dungeon. In that split second I made a decision. I grabbed a glass from one of the private rooms and smashed it hard against the floor. Shards of glass flew everywhere, slicing my palm and fingers. Blood trickled down in crimson drops. I raised my bleeding hand and stumbled into the private room, crying hysterically as I crashed into my brother's arms. "Brother, save me." I fainted. I exaggeratedly collapsed into his chest, playing the role of a fragile damsel to perfection. When I woke up in the hospital, the first person I saw was Brandon Blackwell. He looked pale, dark circles under his eyes, and that vicious grin he had earlier, the one that looked like he wanted to tear the heroine apart, was long gone. "Daisy, you're awake," he said softly, gently patting my forehead. "Once the doctor checks you out and says you're fine, we'll go home." For some reason, this side of Brandon Blackwell unsettled me more. To prevent him from dragging our whole family into the classic yandere villain spiral of doom, I had studied my brother's first love story thoroughly. His childhood was bad. The whole happy, joyful family vibe we have now only came after we siblings were born, slowly turning things around. But back then, my mom was the quintessential tragic heroine. Before my brother was born, she tried multiple times to terminate the pregnancy. I couldn't blame her. When she was hemorrhaging in the delivery room, my dad was on a luxury trip abroad with his secretary. Not even a single phone call. My brother only knew one thing, that our parents' marriage was a disaster. But he'd never seen what a happy family looked like. He didn't know how to help mom, how to stop dad, or how to build a safe place for himself. Until his first love moved in next door. She showed my brother what happiness looked like. But she didn't want to date him. She was just a happy, helpful girl who loved to share her joy with others. She was like the sun. And my brother couldn't stand it when his sun shone on anyone else. He couldn't bear the thought of her belonging to anyone else one day. But chasing the sun is impossible, and trying to possess it, you'll only get burned. I reached out and grabbed Brandon Blackwell's hand. Since my right hand was wrapped up like a mummy, I had to use my left. Brother, are you mad at me? Never underestimate the intelligence of a yandere villain. Sure, love might make them irrational, but on any normal day, their logic is terrifyingly sharp. Don't worry. I let them go. I didn't take over your game room. Brandon Blackwell chuckled, his hand returning to pat my forehead again. Brother will never be mad at you, Daisy. From the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful you were born into this family. You're very important. So next time don't hurt yourself, okay? Whatever you say, I'll listen. While I was recovering at home, Andy Parker came by every day with my homework. My brother and sister couldn't hide their disdain, scrunching their noses and rolling their eyes whenever they saw him. I was speechless. Andy Parker and Aunt Parker literally lived downstairs, you know? To celebrate my recovery and return to school, my family threw a small party. I wrote an invitation for Andy Parker with my left hand, slipped it inside my math workbook, and passed it to him. Andy Parker seemed a little disappointed. I thought it was a love letter, he half joked. I widened my eyes in disbelief. Wow, you're heartless. I'm lucky I can even write your name right now. On the day of the party, my brother politely invited his first love and the male lead, who showed up looking like they were walking to their own executions. My sister arrived with the scholarship heroine, who was now her very best friend, doing practice tests in the corner. My dad, looking slightly awkward, stabbed a small pastry with a fork and tried to feed it to my mom. My mom smiled politely. I'm allergic to peanuts. Though clumsy and awkward, we really were a happy, joyful family. I went looking for Andy Parker, but before I could find him, I saw Aunt Parker fall to her knees in front of my parents, sobbing hysterically. Mr. Blackwell, Mrs. Blackwell, I can't hide it anymore. Miss Daisy is actually my daughter. Andy is your real son. Oh. The party ended abruptly. My mom, dad, brother, and sister set up a family tribunal, surrounding Aunt Parker in the living room. Tears streaming down her face, Aunt Parker told a story that was downright terrifying. The family she married into was obsessed with having sons. She had 2 daughters before, but both mysteriously disappeared before they turned 3. When she gave birth to me, she had a moment of madness. She swapped me with Andy Parker. If my dad had been around to look after my mom, to find out the baby's gender, it wouldn't have been so easy for her. But he had gone to attend his first love's wedding. My brother and sister were at school. My mom was exhausted, and when she woke up, all she knew was that she had given birth to a daughter. Aunt Parker got the son her in-laws demanded, and her biological daughter grew up in the Blackwell family. She even took up a job as the Blackwell family's housekeeper, staying close to both children as they grew up. Years later, she finally gathered the courage to divorce her husband. That's when she felt brave enough to tell the truth and reclaim her child. Daisy, don't blame me. She cried as she looked at me. I was so desperate back then. I didn't want you to disappear like my other daughters, without me even knowing where you were. And now, isn't this a happy ending for everyone? She spoke of a happy ending, but she didn't dare look at Andy Parker. And I didn't dare look at him either. I ran out of the living room and climbed back up to the rooftop. I wasn't planning on jumping. I'd promised my brother, the real Blackwell heir, that I wouldn't hurt myself again. I just needed a place to think, to clear my head. So, I was the fake heiress. I knew it. In a family full of elite talents, it didn't make sense for there to be just one ordinary person. I had been living Andy Parker's life. Everything that should have been his was given to me. While he and Aunt Parker lived in a cramped servants' quarters, I had the luxury of sprawling bedrooms and chandeliers. To be fair, the Blackwell servant quarters were more like hotel suites. But I was still underage, and the property titles Mr. Blackwell, Mrs. Blackwell, Brandon Blackwell, and Lily Blackwell gave me were enough to play Monopoly in real life. I had worked so hard for our happy, joyful family, but it wasn't really my family. It was Andy Parker's. Suddenly, I felt cold. I curled up tightly, hoping to hold on to the warmth. But the tighter I held on, the quicker it faded. Until Andy Parker found me and draped his school jacket over my shoulders. The only thing he had to keep me warm was his school jacket. Aunt Parker was fired from the Blackwell estate. I packed my bags, ready to leave with her. For the first time, I realized how many different suitcases Mrs. Blackwell had bought. Her eyes were red as she let me pick any one I wanted. When I reached for the one on the left, she blurted, "That one's broken." I moved my hand to the right. "That one doesn't roll properly," she said quickly. Ignoring her, I grabbed the one closest to me. The zipper was smooth, the shell was flawless, and the wheels rolled 5 meters with a single push. Mrs. Blackwell started wailing. "That's my favorite. How am I supposed to disappear completely if you take it with you?" When I opened it, I realized she wasn't lying. Inside were 2 signed divorce papers. Brandon Blackwell and Lily Blackwell blocked the doorway. They both spoke at the same time. "Daisy, we don't want a little brother." Lily Blackwell gritted her teeth. "I never liked that guy anyway." Brandon Blackwell flashed a dark smile. "I have a few projects that could use some fresh cement." I immediately started fake crying. Stop. Stop. You all need to be one big happy family, or I'll jump off the roof." I'd spent over 10 years keeping this family from going full dystopian tragedy. There was no way I'd let them spiral out of control now. They'd never really seen me cry before, so they panicked, scrambling to promise me they'd be good to Andy Parker. Mr. Blackwell cleared his throat, standing at the doorway. "Actually, I could raise 4 children. 2 sons and 2 daughters. That's perfect." My expression turned ice cold. "Shut up. A man who didn't even know if his own child was a boy or a girl has no right to talk to me." Mr. Blackwell immediately retreated. "The truth is I knew. No one would mind if I just pretended it never happened and stayed with this family. But if I did, Aunt Parker's crime and Andy Parker's suffering would just vanish into thin air. That didn't seem fair." Andy Parker pursed his lips tightly, his dark eyes reflecting my image. "Daisy, do you have to go?" He held my wrist, voice trembling. I gave him my brightest smile and pulled him into the happy, joyful family group chat. "Andy, I'm leaving this family to you. You're the most reliable one. Make sure to protect them, okay?" Then, I exited the group chat myself, grabbed my suitcase, and ran. After leaving the Blackwell estate, Aunt Parker and I rented a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. She gave me the master bedroom with the best sunlight and took the damp, cramped little one for herself. But the luggage the Blackwell family packed for me was too much. Even with a whole room to myself, my things were still spilling out onto the floor. Aunt Parker tiptoed around a dress with the tag still on. It was one of the casual dresses Mrs. Blackwell had bought for me. $5,000. 3 months of Aunt Parker's salary. Aunt Parker watched me bustling around the room, and suddenly she broke down crying. My feelings toward her were complicated, resentment for switching my life with Andy Parker's, but also gratitude for saving me, for giving me a happy childhood. Counting the moment of my birth, she had given me life twice. So, anyone could blame her, but not me. I tossed aside the shoebox I was holding and ran over to hug her. "Why are you crying?" "Daisy, you're with me now. You can't even keep going to private school, and you can't wear those nice clothes anymore. I feel so useless," she said, wiping her tears with rough hands. Her eyes were red as she clutched my shoulders. How about you go back to the Blackwell family? This kind of life. You won't be able to handle it." I cut her off with a sweeping gesture. "Who says this life is hard? This life is fantastic." "Aunt Parker? ? Here's the thing, I tried my best to maintain our happy, joyful family, but I knew one thing for sure. Plots don't care about logic. Whether it was Mr. Blackwell's failed pursuit ending in the family's bankruptcy, or Lily Blackwell getting her comeuppance from the main couple, or Brandon Blackwell going after the male lead and getting killed off, every single plotline ended with the Blackwell family going bankrupt. So, I made a lot of backup plans. Even though I turned out to be a fake heiress and my entire solution was wrong, I still somehow ended up with the right answer. Now, I had a place to live, I could still go to school, and I even had a pile of nearly new luxury items that I could sell secondhand. All of this was so much better than the ending I had imagined, where I'd be on the streets with the whole Blackwell family, getting mocked and harassed by the main couple. Aunt Parker blinked in surprise, her tears not yet dry. Then I'll go look for a new job right away? That's the spirit. I pressed my cheek against hers. Don't worry, we'll become our own happy, joyful family too. Not long after, I ran into Andy Parker again. Everything he wore was brand new, right down to the backpack. The exact one the eldest Blackwell son had once promised to buy for me. I looked him up and down carefully and finally exhaled in relief. Good. It seemed the Blackwell family was treating him well. If Andy Parker had become the true heir, only to be bullied by the whole family, driven to despair, and eventually, well, that's just classic death flag literature. I guess my brain is still stuck in those tropes. But Andy Parker's face looked pale and worn out, like he hadn't slept in days. He stared at me, eyes wide and unblinking, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. I skillfully dipped a corn dog into thick batter, rolled it until it was perfectly coated, then dropped it into sizzling hot oil. It came out golden and crispy, and I sprinkled it with fine sea salt before poking in a wooden stick. Here you go. Corn dog, extra salt, no spice. The little kid I handed it to grinned up at me, clutching the hot corn dog before running off. This was one of my favorite backup plans. Setting up a food stand in front of the elementary school. To prepare for this, I had watched over 100 corn dog tutorials, perfected a secret recipe, and made connections with kids from 5 nearby schools. I was ready for this. Although Aunt Parker couldn't afford to send me to a private high school, as long as we worked hard together, buying a house, a car, and saving for college tuition was just a matter of time. One of the neighborhood kids brought me a big order, and I couldn't stop grinning as I busily fried up corn dogs. That's when a group of teenage boys barged through the kids waiting in line, crowding around my cart. At the front was none other than David Miller, the guy who, in just one day, got dumped by both Lily Blackwell and the scholarship heroine, a meltdown so public it became the talk of the entire school. He flipped his hair back, flashing me what he probably thought was a dazzling smile. Well, isn't this the fake from the Blackwell family? They must have been blind to pamper you all those years, huh? I held my breath for a second. David waited, and when I didn't respond, he frowned. Daisy Blackwell, are you seriously not mad when people insult you? I blinked cautiously. Nope. It's my first time being a fake heiress. I'm still getting used to it. Fake heiresses either made trouble for others, got bullied themselves, or stuck to the real heiress like glue. And yet, the first person to make trouble for me turned out to be someone tangled up in the Lily Blackwell and scholarship heroine drama. The sheer complexity of these character relationships was making my head spin. David opened his mouth to say more, but Andy Parker squeezed through the crowd, stepping in front of me. David scowled. What do you want? Apparently, Lily Blackwell had dumped David using the same logic I'd once used on her. David had just been humiliated by Andy Parker in front of her, and 20 minutes later, the scholarship heroine had crushed him with the exact same reasoning. Since then, David had hated Andy Parker with a passion, but even he couldn't deny that everything Lily Blackwell said about him was true. Andy crossed his arms. You buying a corn dog or not? If you're not buying, don't block the line. David's face twisted with rage. Buying? You think I can't afford it? He whipped out his phone and scanned the payment code. Daisy Blackwell, I don't care how many you have left. I'm buying out your entire stock. I blinked a few times, then swiftly adjusted the price list. 1 corn dog, $100. Thank you for your business. David's jaw dropped. Did you just add an extra zero? I grinned. So are you buying or not? Can't afford it? Andy Parker, looks like he can't afford it. Guess he's broke. Andy Parker chimed in perfectly. Wow, he's really broke. David's face turned crimson with fury. In the end, he ended up treating all the kids from the 5 nearby elementary schools to corn dogs. I saved the most perfectly fried one and handed it to Andy Parker. Thanks for the help. Here, try my masterpiece. Andy took 2 bites and then, to my horror, his eyes started welling up with tears. I panicked. Wait, aren't you good with spicy food? Even if I'm just a fake heiress, I swear I didn't mess with it. Don't fake an injury. But Andy only sobbed harder, eating while crying. Daisy, I really can't take it anymore. Can you help me? His jet black eyes were shimmering with tears, and I found myself nodding unconsciously. Sure. Tell me everything. Ever since I left, the Blackwell family began to show their true colors. Mr. Blackwell hired his 9th secretary, taking her on a business trip to Paris, where he missed both Mrs. Blackwell's birthday and their wedding anniversary. Mrs. Blackwell signed 2 divorce papers, packed her bags, and disappeared completely. Lily Blackwell and the scholarship heroine suddenly fell for the same transfer student, turning on each other viciously. They fought so badly it escalated to, if one applied to Southern University, the other would go to Northern. Dead to each other was the new norm. As for Brandon Blackwell, the one who seemed the most normal, Andy Parker confessed he saw him lock something, or someone, in the basement. Since then, eerie noises and screams echoed from below every night. Andy Parker's face turned pale as he spoke. I once thought about jumping off the roof. Maybe if I die, they'll finally realize what they've done. Maybe they'll live in regret for the rest of their lives. I smacked him on the back of the head, hard. No jumping. I tried it before. You don't die from our rooftop. There was nothing I could do. Andy Parker was just that kind of person. Fragile, helpless, a true young master caught up in chaos. I had underestimated just how much the Blackwell family could screw things up. I left Andy Parker there, hoping he'd finally get the happiness and fairness he deserved. Not so he could be thrown into a snake pit and act as the family's emotional firefighter. Seeing my hesitation, Andy Parker grasped my hand tightly. Daisy, do you really think this family can run without you? It's all just hanging by a thread. Why don't I just hire you as my bodyguard? If you come back, you'll see for yourself. I was still wavering when Andy Parker's phone suddenly rang. Andy, you need to come quick, his classmate shouted frantically through the speaker. Your sister and her best friend are fighting. When we arrived, the scholarship heroine was being shielded by the transfer student. Her sleeve was torn, and her lip was bruised. Lily Blackwell's hair was a tangled mess, her head hanging low as she chuckled bitterly, tears streaming down her face. I had only ever seen Lily Blackwell barking orders and spewing venom. I'd never seen her like this. Without thinking, I rushed forward. I'm still alive. Who dares to bully my sister? Lily looked up, equal parts surprised and overjoyed. She clung tightly to my sleeve. Daisy, they're all bullying me. Wah! I paused mid-sleeve roll. Wait a second, wasn't her crying a bit fake? Before I could process it, the transfer student stepped forward, brow furrowed, and said haughtily. Everyone saw it. Lily Blackwell assaulted a classmate in public. Are you still going to defend her? You're her sister? I guess it makes sense. 2 peas in a pod, brainless and vicious. Lily Blackwell, give it up. I will never like you. I thought Lily would shatter on the spot, but instead, she raised her eyebrows and shot a smug look at the scholarship heroine. Ha! I told you he likes you. The scholarship heroine looked devastated. Stop saying that, Lily Blackwell. I don't want to hear it. How could he like me? Why wouldn't he like you? Ha! He's literally the last in our class, and he's calling me second in our grade. Brainless? Do I look that desperate? And what about me? I got a guaranteed spot at elite university, and he still says it doesn't matter if I can't get into college. He'll take care of me for the rest of my life. I almost threw up. Their argument escalated, and before I knew it, both of them reached out at the same time to shove the transfer student aside. Lily Blackwell, let's settle this. 3 sets of competition exams. Whoever scores lower, he likes more. Dare or not? Is that the only way? Fine, bring it on. The transfer student frowned. Hey, what exactly do you 2 take me for? Lily Blackwell. An idiot. Scholarship heroine. An overly confident idiot. I took half a step back and whispered to Andy Parker. I'm starting to think. Maybe I don't need to jump in. They seem to be working this out just fine. Andy Parker wiped the sweat off his forehead. Unexpected. Really unexpected. Should we, maybe go check on Brandon Blackwell instead? We stood outside the basement door, and the screams coming from within made my face go pale. What on earth happened to make Brandon Blackwell lose his mind like this? Andy Parker handed me a newspaper. There, splashed across the front page, was the headline announcing Brandon Blackwell's first love's grand wedding. But on the day of the wedding, both the bride and groom mysteriously disappeared. Their friends and family were frantically searching for them. No way. Did my brother kidnap them both? Did he plan to officiate their wedding himself? I steadied my nerves and started banging on the basement door. Brandon. Brandon. Brandon Blackwell. Open up. I know you're in there. If you're bold enough to kidnap the male lead, you'd better be bold enough to open this door. There's still time to stop. Don't slide any further into the depths of crime. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but the longer I knocked, the louder the screams got. But Brandon Blackwell refused to open the door. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and played my trump card. Brother, you promised you'd always listen to me. Open the door. The basement door swung open. I squeezed through the gap, already calculating how I was going to clean up this mess. Would I have to use a full-on memory wipe on the male and female leads? But the basement, it was empty. There were no male or female leads. Just my brother. And the source of the screams. A beagle. Yes, a beagle. My brother and I stared at each other. There was no trace of the usual yandere madness on his face. Just exhaustion. Brother, where did this dog come from? Brandon Blackwell held the beagle in his arms, his eyes a bit dazed. As it turned out, even after giving up on chasing down the male and female leads, my brother had still been keeping an eye on the heroine's life through social media. One day, she posted a photo of a beagle. Out of habit, my brother commented. So cute. 3 hours later, for the first time ever, the heroine replied to him. You think so? You can have him. My brother, stunned by the attention, tried to be polite. This doesn't seem right. I wouldn't want to take away something you love. That was when the male lead showed up at his door, smirking coldly. Too late. Brandon. Open the door. And just like that, my brother inherited his first love's dog. He stared into the beagle's big round eyes, still not entirely sure what had just happened. Meanwhile, the male and female leads, terrified he might change his mind, scrapped their plans for a grand wedding. They eloped, registered their marriage, and took off on a worldwide honeymoon tour. The beagle squirmed in Brandon Blackwell's arms, and the moment he set it down, it took a steaming hot dump right on Brandon Blackwell's favorite carpet. Brandon Blackwell's face was stretched into a hollow smile. Good boy. You even know how to use the bathroom on the floor now. All in all, my brother's mental state seemed healthier than ever. I glanced over at Andy Parker, who, for some reason, had started sweating again. Daisy, maybe we should find a way to contact Mr. Blackwell, he suggested nervously. If he can't win Mrs. Blackwell back, he's definitely going to spiral into a meltdown. Honestly, out of all the Blackwells, I cared the least about what would happen if Mr. Blackwell failed in his desperate attempts to win back his wife. Brandon Blackwell loved in a way that was both pitiful and extreme. Lily Blackwell built walls of arrogance and venom to protect herself. But Mr. Blackwell? He wanted everything. Unconditional love from Mrs. Blackwell without lifting a finger to earn it. In a way, the entire Blackwell family had suffered because of him. If Mrs. Blackwell finally decided to leave for good and embrace her own freedom, he would have no one to blame but himself. Just as we reached the first floor, I heard the front door open, the sound of someone returning home. Mr. Blackwell's voice was all sugar and sunshine as he greeted Mrs. Blackwell. Honey, did you enjoy our anniversary trip to Paris? Was it fun? Mrs. Blackwell responded coolly. It was fine. Mr. Blackwell perked up like a puppy being praised. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Next year, how about we go to Switzerland for your birthday? We can take the kids and go skiing. Mrs. Blackwell's reply was still indifferent. We'll see. Anyway, we should start preparing to fight. Andy will be bringing Daisy back any minute now. Are you ready to break down, turn evil, and sob like your life depends on it? Mr. Blackwell slapped his chest with confidence. I promise I'll get it done. We need to make Daisy feel like this family is absolutely nothing without her. We're just barely holding it together. Before his words even finished, I stepped into view, my expression blank. Andy Parker followed behind me, sticking close and barely daring to breathe. I lowered my gaze. Go on, keep acting. Why'd you stop? Continue. Lily Blackwell handed over the eye drops she'd been using to fake tears. Mrs. Blackwell shredded the divorce papers right in front of me. Only Brandon Blackwell was still there, gazing emptily at the beagle in his arms, mindlessly liking his first love's honeymoon pictures on social media. Andy Parker gently took my hand. Daisy, please don't be mad. My tears started to fall, dripping onto the back of his hand one by one. Andy flinched, as if burned, and grew more flustered. Daisy, it's my fault. Don't cry, please. I choked back a sob. I'm not mad. I'm just really happy. I was truly happy. For more than a decade, I had poured my heart and soul into fighting against the preordained script of the Blackwell family. Because to me, they weren't just characters, they were my beloved family. I wanted them to be happy. I wanted us to be a real, happy, joyful family. When I found out I was a fake heiress, I went from a self-proclaimed protector to the villain who had been causing harm all along. I was terrified that if I stayed, I would be the one to tear this family apart. What if everyone kept favoring me? What if I had stolen Andy Parker's life? He deserved all the love I had gotten. Did he really want to forgive me and share it? So, I had forced myself to leave. But now, my family had reached out their hands to me instead. They were trying to show me that love could change things. That my efforts weren't in vain. We were truly a happy family, willing to fight for each other. I didn't have to worry about the plot anymore. It felt so good. Andy Parker, at a loss for what to do, finally extended his arms and pulled me into a hug. I breathed in the soft scent of his laundry detergent from his white shirt and cried even harder. He gently patted my back, his jaw clenched with determination. Daisy. I love. My mother's cool voice interrupted with a sharp laugh as she pulled out the divorce papers and started signing them again. Brandon Blackwell raised an eyebrow in boredom. What is this? Taking advantage of the situation? Using family time to sneak in some romance? And without even a bouquet? Are you planning to win my sister's heart with just empty hands? Mrs. Blackwell clicked her tongue. Andy, don't learn from your father. He's the perfect example of what not to do. Mr. Blackwell looked like he might cry. Am I really that bad? I mean, really? I think Andy confessing right now is fine. Isn't it? Daisy's our family, no matter what. I burst out laughing, stood on my tiptoes, and kissed Andy Parker on the cheek. The room fell silent. I wasn't sure who did it, but someone made a loud, dramatic scoff. Andy Parker's face turned bright red, from his ears all the way down to his neck. And in the depths of his eyes, I saw my own reflection, just as flushed. A love letter, I whispered. I'll write you a proper one. Andy Parker's long eyelashes fluttered. Okay. Suddenly, my phone dinged. A notification popped up. You have been added to the Happy Joyful Family group chat. Extra. After I returned to the Blackwell family, my biological mother finally took a deep breath and decided it was time to make something of herself. We would call each other from time to time, mostly chatting about daily life. Until one day, I was idly scrolling through social media and stumbled upon a short video. A familiar figure stood at a massive podium, framed by towering LED screens that flashed with the words, Global Dark Horse, Business Queen, Real Estate Tycoon, Startup Mentor. She held a microphone with confidence, eyes sparkling. I started from nothing and got here all because of my belief. I rubbed my eyes. Was that my real mom? The subtitle at the bottom was highlighted in golden letters. Founder of Parker Group, Esther Parker. I almost spat out my milk. Mom, did you switch careers and become a business mogul? To make it even more absurd, I scrolled down to the comment section and found nothing but praise. She's so inspiring. From housekeeper to real estate mogul. I heard she built the Parker Group from scratch and now it spans 5 major industries. I want to know her secret to success. Esther Parker held the microphone with a dazzling smile and declared with pride, "All because of my precious daughter." The end. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.